Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the video. Yesterday was insane. What a great day in the Overwatch League. I was all over the place yesterday watching these games. They were so good. Starting off with the first set, Florida Mayhem, they put up a great fight against the London Spitfire. Then in the second set, the Houston Outlaws, Philadelphia Fusion matchup was insane. At first, I thought it might have been a whitewash. I was pretty sad when Houston was up 2-0 and Philly was looking lifeless. They came back with the fire after halftime, took it all the way to Game 5. We're going to talk about those sets. The last one was the least exciting one, which was the New York Excelsior and Boston Uprising. We will talk about that set. We'll talk a little bit about why Boston hasn't looked that good in this meta. Overall, it was an awesome day of Overwatch League yesterday, guys. I am so hyped. If you guys are hyped, be sure to drop a like on this video, subscribe to my channel. I upload videos every single day about the Overwatch League, so if you need your daily fix, you can get it here. But without any further ado, let's just hop right into it, guys. In the first set, it was the Florida Mayhem, the London Spitfire, and this was a much closer game than I thought it would be. The London Spitfire did have Hureg in instead of Birdring. This could be due to them wanting to just give him some experience, give him some time. He hasn't played much so far in the season. A few maps here and there, just not a lot at all. So it was cool seeing him in. They also could be displaying him and saying, hey, look, we got a premium DPS player here. If any teams out there need a good DPS player, we're selling him, you know? It could be either or. They did the same exact thing with Rascal and Fisher last stage. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised if that's what they were doing with him. But let's just go ahead and hop into the games. We started off on Volskaya, and this was a close map. It was back and forth, kind of near the end. The Florida Mayhem did take control. Their Sombra play was looking on point. Zupe was doing great work. Tavik looked really good on the Genji. Logix was popping off on the Tracer. And something I want to mention is Logix period in this set looked very good. He was a big standout for Florida Mayhem. And I think as time has gone on in the Overwatch League, Logix has actually become a very good player. He is consistently doing work for his team. And it really does seem like if he had a little more help, the Florida Mayhem would be able to pick up more sets here and there. But let's get back into Volskaya. The London Spitfire kind of looked stagnant on their attacks. They couldn't get too much done. Once again, though, that was due to Florida Mayhem's great play with the Sombra. It seemed like they were combining ults really well, and they were working together great. So they ended up taking Volskaya 4-3, and this moved us on to Lijiang Tower. And going into Lijiang Tower, I was a little bit worried thinking that the Florida Mayhem were going to pick it up, because Lijiang Tower has been the absolute worst map for the London Spitfire. Just historically so far in the Overwatch League, the London Spitfire have been very bad on Lijiang Tower. They've lost it almost every single time. And they don't even put up close fights on the map, really, to be honest. Like, they just get rolled over. So I was going into this map thinking that the London Spitfire were actually in trouble, and Florida Mayhem might be able to do something with this set. To my surprise, though, the London Spitfire looked pretty decent on this map. Hureg ran a little bit of Sombra on this control center. On Gardens, Hureg ran Pharah. Prophet was on the Tracer, he was doing work, and it was somewhat close, but London Spitfire were able to take it 2-0. And this tied up the set 1-1 at halftime. Once this happened, I kind of knew that London Spitfire were going to take control of this set and win it. Moving on to the next map, which was Kings Row, and if London Spitfire had lost Lijiang Tower, I would have been very, very scared for them, because Lijiang Tower, Kings Row are two of their worst maps, and going into them down 0-1, they really would have been in trouble. But they did pick up Lijiang Tower, so they went into Kings Row 1-1. And they actually had a really nice defense. Hureg was on the Widowmaker. They had Orisa. They were kind of hiding around the shield. He was picking people apart. It was a really nice and solid defense that they had. I was very impressed on their attack. The London Spitfire honestly really struggled. And if it wasn't for Florida Mayhem C9ing really, really hard, they potentially could have lost this map. There was no way for them to draw it out because the Florida Mayhem on their attack did get the first tick and halfway to the second one. So there was really no way for a draw. It was either a team was going to win or lose. And the London Spitfire really honestly could have lost if it wasn't for the Florida Mayhem C9ing. And I know the London Spitfire, he threw up the Diva ult to zone them out. But still, there's like 6 of you guys alive. Somebody on the team's got to take that. Someone's got to get on the point with a shield. Diva's got to tank it and just give up her mech. Someone's got to tank, because it was literally like 5v2, I think. Maybe 5v3 or 6v3. Somebody should have tanked it. There needed to be someone communicating, saying, all right, I'm going to take it, I'm going to take it. That's really something in my teams that we've always done. When we knew there was a Diva ult zoning us and someone needed to touch a point, immediately would be like, all right, who's tanking it? Who's tanking it? And someone would call it and someone would tank it. So Florida Mayhem, they really needed to do that. Unfortunately, they didn't, and they C9, and you seen Prophet's expression after they won. He was laughing. He was like, oh my god, what the hell? How did they C9 that? I wouldn't say he was mocking Florida Mayhem, but he got a good chuckle out of it. So they took the map. Kings Row went in favor of London Spitfire. They were up in the set 2-1. moving on to Route 66. And this was another very close map here. Every single map was close. Even the 2-0 victory on Lijiang Tower for London Spitfire was pretty damn close. On Route 66, Florida Mayhem started on attack. They had a pretty decent push. They got it all the way to third, almost to the end, but they were stopped. London Spitfire got the hold. And on London Spitfire's attack, man, they almost got held on first. It went all the way down to overtime, the very last fight, and they did end up capping it. They kind of steamrolled through second. Thanks to Prophet, he had a really clutch bomb onto Vic when he was aimbotting inside of a trank. So if it wasn't for that, he probably would have gotten a lot of damage off, and they could have been held there on second. But instead, he kept the snowball running. They got into third, and they struggled a little bit. Florida Mayhem did end up winning a couple team fights, and it went down to the wire once again, the very last team fight. Prophet, though, he came in clutch once again. That tracer play, it was phenomenal yesterday. He hit a stick on Logix when he was fighting him, Tracer 1v1. That was a very nice stick. He came back. He basically wiped the whole team. He killed Tavik. Honestly, he had Tavik's number. Prophet killed Tavik so much yesterday. And overall, it was a very fun set to watch. It was really close. I didn't expect it to be this close. The London Spitfire did struggle. Maybe it was because they had Hureg in, and they didn't have Badosin in either. They just ran the old GC Busan roster, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think they do have players that are better on the roster, like Badosin, like Birdring. But it is good, you know, they're playing a weaker team. They want to give experience to some of their players that haven't gotten a chance to play that much. Again, it could be a situation where they want to sell them in the future, and you obviously can't sell something if they never play and don't show anything. As for the Florida Mayhem side, I already mentioned this. Logix, he looked very good today. Pretty much the only player on his team that consistently played well throughout this set. To Vic, he really was inconsistent in this game. He struggled at times, especially on Route 66 and Lijiang Tower when Prophet just kept killing him. They did look good on Volskaya as a team. Their Sombra play was pretty good. And that was it for this set. The London Spitfire, they took it 3-1. It was really close. It was 25 team fights for the Florida Mayhem to the 29 of London Spitfire. Although the London Spitfire did have about 50 more kills than them, 172 to 121. It was pretty close. And let's go to move on to this next set, which is the one you guys are probably all waiting for. The Houston Outlaws taking on the Philadelphia Fusion. Oh my, what a set this was. At first, like I said earlier, it was looking like it was going to be a stomp, a whitewash. Houston Outlaws were really in control of this set. Philadelphia Fusion looked lifeless going into halftime, but they came back out. They brought that fire. So let's just go ahead and hop right into it. So starting off on that first map, we had Volskaya Industries, and Houston Outlaws looked great. Their attack blazing fast. They capped with like 6:20 left on second. Philadelphia Fusion, likewise though, they came out in their first attack. They did very good. They capped with about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. And it was looking very even. It was looking like we were going to have a great match. And then Houston Outlaws out of nowhere had an amazing hold on first. They shut down Philadelphia Fusion. 4 minutes and 20 seconds, held them down, and then all Houston Outlaws had to do was cap first, and they did just that. The first map went in favor of the Houston Outlaws. It did kind of look like a stomp in the end, although Philadelphia Fusion had that good first attack. They got held really hard. Then we moved on to the next map, which was Nepal, and this one was very close. This was an exciting map to watch. It went 99-99 on the first round, back and forth the entire time. 1 second it looked like Philly was going to win. The next second it looked like the Houston Outlaws were going to win. It came down to that very last team fight. It was actually insane, dude. So Philadelphia Fusion, they had about 87% left on the cap. Houston Outlaws were at 99. They had control of the point. Philadelphia Fusion came in. They won the point. They capped it, and it looked like they were winning the team fight. They brought it up to 99, and then out of nowhere, Linkster and Jake just started fragging people on Tracer and Soldier 76. They picked up about 2 kills apiece, and then recapped the point, took the first round. It was a 99-99, as we love to see in Control. It was amazing. And this was probably one of the best rounds of Control I've ever seen. We got to see the Bastion come out from Houston Outlaws, and it was just back and forth the entire time. It was so good. Definitely one of the best rounds of the Overwatch League so far. And then on the second round, which was Sanctum, the Philadelphia Fusion actually had a very nice strategy at first. They were running ShaDowBurn on Pharah, and ShaDowBurn's been a great Pharah so far in the Overwatch League. He booped Linkster on Soldier, then he booped Muma on the Orisa. He was getting boops left and right. It was looking great. They were running the percentage up. I think they got it all the way to 80% before Houston Outlaws came in and capped it. And then they ran it all the way up to 99 without much contest from the Philadelphia Fusion. And again, the fair strategy was nice, but I think they really needed to swap off it after they lost the point. It's kind of hard retaking as Pharah when the other team has control of the point and they have a D.Va and Soldier like just all over you. So they were swarming ShaDowBurn. He even had a barrage for so long and he didn't even get the chance to use it either. So the Houston Outlaws ended up winning that, and the Houston Outlaws took the map, and we're up 2-0 going into halftime. And at this point, I was thinking, all right, maybe it's time to bring in EQO. You know, ShaDowBurn's performance was okay so far. He hadn't done anything spectacular yet. Maybe it's time to, you know, switch up the play styles, throw in somebody new. I figured, you know, Philadelphia Fusion, you're down 0-2. It's been sort of close, you know, back and forth. But ShaDowBurn didn't look amazing. He hadn't done anything really special yet. Besides the fair play early on Sanctum, it was just a lot of dry team play. So, you know, I felt like they should throw EQO in, see what he can do for the set. Maybe they could do the reverse sweep. So then we came back from halftime. Philadelphia Fusion, they decided to keep ShaDowBurn in. Definitely ballsy. I felt like at the time a change would have been good. But hey, they stuck with their balls and they went into Hollywood. And ShaDowBurn actually had an amazing performance on this map. He definitely showed up. He finally looked like he was having a very big impact, as he usually does. The Houston Outlaws, they capped first with some time. They weren't able to push it through second, though. And then we swapped sides. Houston Outlaws went on defense. Philadelphia Fusion went on the attack. And it was very similar. They capped first with some time. They went through second. They were struggling very hard all the way up until the very last team fight. We were in overtime. Philadelphia Fusion, they needed to win this last team fight to stay in the set. Houston Outlaws needed to win this fight to close it out. And when it mattered, the Houston Outlaws, they weren't able to do it. And Philadelphia Fusion, they came out on top. ShaDowBurn had an amazing Dragon Blade to close it out. And Philadelphia Fusion, they had some life. They were showing signs of greatness, and they took Hollywood. And that put us at 2-1 in the set. Our fourth map was Route 66. And damn, Poco turned up. I had to say that as the first thing for this map because he just popped off. He had 32% of his team's damage on D.Va. He went 10-1 on this map. They had an amazing defense. They first held the Houston Outlaws, pretty much just completely shut down everything they tried to do. They had a pretty good attack. They capped it with about 1 minute and 30 seconds left. It was just all around an amazing performance by the Philadelphia Fusion on Route 66. Something to also note, ShaDowBurn's hero pool actually started to come out on this map. He was running Sombra. He was running Widowmaker, something we really never seen him do. He was usually just stuck on the Pharah Genji projectile roll, but seeing him on Sombra and Widowmaker was actually very surprising, and it seems like Philadelphia Fusion, in the meantime while they were running EQO, they had ShaDowBurn in the back practicing new heroes, getting ready for these types of matches where he could show it off and catch some teams off guard. And that definitely worked on this map. Like I said, they first held them, they completely rolled them. And it was 2-2 going into the fifth map, which was Elios. And now the entire series was just flipped upside down. The Philadelphia Fusion, the ones who were down 0-2, now we're the ones who just won 2 maps in a row. Houston Outlaws, they weren't able to close the set out. They had plenty of opportunities on Hollywood to do that. They got completely rolled on Route 66, so they were definitely on the back foot. So then we got onto Elios, and to my surprise, ShaDowBurn was actually running Widowmaker again over Carpe. Now, I kind of understood it for Route 66, because Route 66 is kind of a map where you play Widowmaker, you look for picks, you don't have to worry about another Widowmaker trying to pick you. But on Elios, when you run Widowmaker, you're gonna have to go up against another Widowmaker. And for ShaDowBurn to be challenging NYXL was very surprising. I didn't know what to think of it at first. Just like the casters, I figured that he was going to try to avoid NYXL, not really try to get into battles, focus down the tanks, stuff like that. ShaDowBurn actually picked off NYXL on Widowmaker, and he forced NYXL to switch off of Widowmaker. And I was very surprised by ShaDowBurn. Sure, maybe it was just 1 kill, but he still did it. He forced NYXL off Widowmaker, and that's really what mattered. This put Philadelphia Fusion up 99% to 0. Houston Outlaws were able to come back, though. They ran it all the way up to 95%, but Philadelphia Fusion were able to gather up some ults, and they retook it and took the round 1-0. So now Houston Outlaws were really on the back foot. And something to note up until this point, Jake's Tracer was very sloppy so far on this map. And the set, he hadn't looked that great on Tracer. It wasn't that bad, though. But on Elios, he really struggled. You could tell watching him play. It just really looked like he was lost and he didn't understand what his job was or what he was doing, which was very surprising because up until this point, Jake's Tracers looked pretty solid. Maybe his aim hasn't been that great, but positional-wise and what he was doing on the map always looked pretty good. And on Elios, that all went out the window. Despite Jake's performance, though, it was still really close. The second round was really back and forth. It went to 99-99. Houston Outlaws, they were able to take that round, put it to 1-1. It came down to this, guys. One round of Elios. Who was going to take the set? Philadelphia Fusion, Houston Outlaws. It was insane. Houston Outlaws came out in this final round. They capped it. They got it all the way up to 88%. Despite Jake looking lost on Tracer, they were still able to do a good job. But then Philadelphia Fusion, they finally took it out of Houston Outlaws' hands. They did slip up a little bit and let the Houston Outlaws cap it and get it to 99-99. But other than that, they were still in full control. They came back. They capped the point. ShaDowBurn had an amazing Dragon Blade. And that was all she wrote. Philadelphia Fusion, they took the set. Houston Outlaws' streak of regular season dominance had been ended in a reverse sweep to the Philadelphia Fusion. What an incredible set. Honestly, it was one of the best I've seen so far. Not only was every map extremely competitive and close, it ended in a reverse sweep, which is always amazing to see. It went all the way down to the wire, a last round Koth, 99-99 every single round. Wow. Oh, man. What an amazing set to watch. Congrats to the Philadelphia Fusion. They looked amazing. They stuck to their guns with ShaDowBurn in this set. Very ballsy of them, and it paid off. ShaDowBurn popped off in the last 3 maps. And the Houston Outlaws, man, they must be devastated. It was a horrible loss. They definitely had opportunities to close this one out, and they should have. They really should have. And that was it. Philadelphia Fusion, they took it 3-2. Moving on to the next set, the New York Excelsior and Boston Uprising. There was no way that this match could top the last one. I mean, if it did, that would have been incredible. Obviously, though, we know it didn't. New York Excelsior took it in a 4-0. Arc is back, which is very good for the New York Excelsior. I'm glad to see that. I didn't know if he was going to be playing or not. He suffered from a wrist injury last week. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about this match because it really wasn't that close. Maybe at certain points it looked like it was a little bit competitive, but New York Excelsior just looked like the completely better team at all points, at all maps. They took the victory 4-0, and like I said, Arc is back, which is very exciting, and now they have a match coming up this week with the Houston Outlaws on Saturday. And this is going to be a very exciting one. New York Excelsior has just been dominant throughout the entire Overwatch League so far, and so has the Houston Outlaws. Yes, they slipped up today, but it's going to be very exciting seeing how they bounce back from that match. Remember, they still did get a win off of London Spitfire last week, so that's very impressive. Philadelphia Fusion, they are no slouch of an opponent. They've looked amazing so far this stage. So hopefully they come into this match against the New York Excelsior fired up, ready to win it, go head-to-head with them. Because although I think New York Excelsior will win at the end of the day, I think they will still have a close match. Obviously, I'm not counting out the Houston Outlaws. They do have the potential to win. And if they would have beat the Philadelphia Fusion, I think they would have had a higher chance. But I do think that loss was very devastating to the Houston Outlaws. I don't know if it will affect them a ton, but it will be lingering in their mind, of course. It's hard not to think about how you lost, especially when it was in that type of fashion. You were up 2-0. You had chances to close the set out, but you let the team come back. They reverse swept you. And it really ended a long streak of dominance in the regular season. They hadn't lost a match really since the Seoul Dynasty game, and then prior to that, it was week 1. So they've been doing really good. So I'm really excited for that match between New York and Houston coming up on Saturday. And I already said it, I didn't want to talk too much about the New York Excelsior and Boston Uprising game. I want to talk a little bit here more about the Boston Uprising and how they've looked really sloppy and just unprepared for this stage so far. So basically overall, they do seem lost, and they're still searching for how they want to play this meta. And the reason I think this is because they've had Dreamcast play so many heroes so far in their sets. He's playing like 6 to 8 heroes still. And yeah, it was really good last stage for him. It worked out very well for them. But I think now we're in like a different meta where you just need to stick to one comp. Either like the Soldier Tracer counter dive or the Genji Tracer dive. And that seems to be what most of the teams are running. Yeah, they'll still flex and they'll run the Pharahs on the control maps. But like they have Dreamcast playing Doomfist here and there. They have him on McCree, Soldier, Widowmaker, Pharah, Genji, Roadhog. Like, he's still playing like 7 to 9 heroes. I really think they need to cut that down for him. Yeah, he's really good at a lot of them, but focus in on that Genji Tracer dive. You guys were very good in the last meta. You were one of the best dive teams, so it would only make sense if they would just focus on the Tracer Genji dive. I remember talking about them on some of my videos mentioning their Anubis gameplay. It was so good. The way they would attack the point and converge on it at the same time was absolutely amazing to watch, and it was nearly impossible for other teams to stop because their coordination, their timing, it was all on point. And they were running the Tracer Genji comp. So I feel like if they just focused in on that, became like a one-trick team, they run Tracer, Genji, Diva, Winston, Zenyatta, Lucio, and just straight up dive. They have the pieces. Kellex, he's known as a good Lucio. Neko, he was a really good Zenyatta in the last meta. Note, Shown, he was an amazing Diva. They also have Kalios, he can also play Diva. Dreamcasper's Genji was one of the best last stage, and Striker, again, one of the best Traces last stage. So to me, I feel like they're kind of lost right now. They're trying to find their identity, and if I could give them any advice, I would tell them to run that comp, focus on it for a couple weeks, see where you get, and if it's not working then that means it's time to panic at that point. But so far, yeah, they're trying too many things out, and I know it's still only week 2, but they're now 0-12 in their last 3 sets, 0-12 in this stage so far, which they have broken the record of the most maps lost in a row, which is really bad. So yeah, we're only 3 matches in, but there's only 7 more left. We're basically a third done now, and they've looked awful. So their chances of making the stage 2 playoffs definitely slim at this point, and I think they need to start focusing in on one comp. And that's basically it for this video, guys. Let me know what you think about everything we talked about. I'm super excited for Saturday. We have huge matches. Houston Outlaws taking on New York Excelsior. Philadelphia Fusion, the gods of Stage 2 so far, taking on the London Spitfire. Will London be able to stop them? We'll just have to wait and see. Be sure to follow my channel, guys. Drop that subscription. Like the video. I make Overwatch League content every single day. Follow Team Kungarna on Twitter at team_Kungarna. And I'm out of here, guys. Peace.